Hola, namaste, and hello. Wishing all the amazing women out there a belated Happy Women's Day. I am Sukriti Advanshi from TechGig, and like every year, I am here with a conversation as we celebrate the International Women's Day throughout the world this month. I believe this celebration isn't restricted to a month or a day or a specific time of the year. The spirit of celebrating Women's Day can be attributed to our day-to-day lives when we, try and create opportunities and ambience for them in the most simplest way possible. That being said, our conversation this year emphasizes on the digital innovation and technology, for everyone, with a panel of experts curated to bring in an amalgamation of scopes and awareness for each one of you. Folks, I'm delighted to introduce you to our, sorbets for today's conversation. Please welcome Angela Murze, Head Cloud Innovation Center India, Rackspace Technology; Komal Gupta, Chief Innovation Officer, Cyril, Amarchand, Mangaldas; Manasa Rajan, CEO, Jupiter Meta; and Naaz, Global Head, Talent and Diversity at TataTechnologies. Welcome to the show, ladies, and I am so glad to have each one of you here with me today. Before I go ahead and ask those questions that I have curated for this discussion today, I would request you to please begin with the opening remarks of this session and tell me how excited you are to be a part of this conversation. So, Angela, let's begin with you.
Hello, everyone. So, Angela Murze, working with Rackspace Technologies as the head of the Innovation Center in India. I've been in the IT industry for more than 25 years, and I'm very, very excited to be here to share my thoughts on inclusion and what we can do better to make this a very, very inclusive society. I truly believe that the power lies in our hands, and it's up to all of us how we can develop, redevelop, learn or unlearn to make this a better place.
Thank you so much, Angela. Komal?
Hi, everyone. I'm Komal Gupta. I work as the Chief Innovation Officer at Cyril, Amarchand, Mangaldas. I'm a lawyer by qualification, and my basic role is to modernize the practice of law through people, process, and technology. What is my take on inclusion? I would give you an example what I do in my day-to-day role, which is follow design thinking methodology, which means that you keep the user first. You always keep in mind the user. And if you keep the user in mind, so developing legal technologies or any kind of technology, any kind of solutions, without keeping the user in mind is not going to take us anywhere, because that will be a solution that will be developed but not used. So by way of example, if we are making some great technology, solution for women, how do we ensure that the rural women are digitally literate and they are able to use and they know how to use, they're trained to use it. Similarly, maybe we are making some solution for farmers. Again, how do we ensure that farmers from all over the country who are more using vernacular languages, are we making sure that the solution is provided in their vernacular languages so that they can use it and they are able to, again, digital literacy, do they know how to use it? So my point is that, this is really something that we have to solve with the design thinking methodologies in mind, keeping the user in mind, and make sure that, whoever we are developing the solution for are people who know how to use it so that they can actually make it successful and benefit out of it. And it has to start, like, it is really an institutional problem which needs to be solved.
Thank you, Komal. Manasa?
Thank you. I'm Manasa Rajan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Jupiter Meta. We are a metaverse, extended reality, and Web3 company. Technology, has the power to create change at scale that is accelerated and far surpasses the normal pace of societal change. That's what is truly exciting about it. In the last decade, we've experienced increase in access for small businesses, entrepreneurs, to really expand their addressable market through social media. Improvement in AI-led diagnostic tools, which creates timely medical intervention to a far larger population. That's the scope, inclusivity. Democratization of fitness and nutrition through technology products that has touched the quality of life across demographics, across age, across cities, across affordability. Now with Web3, metaverse, and extended reality technologies, the potential for inclusive growth across education, content, ownership of IP, and new monetization models is phenomenal. businesses, companies, and us, individuals, need to assess and have a point of view, an informed point of view on the scope and value of future tech. I think that's where the next set of change and inclusivity and societal change is going to stem from.
Thank you so much, Manasa. Naaz?
Hello, good afternoon to everyone. Absolutely excited to be here, Sukriti, and thanks for inviting me here on this forum. As for my role, I am representing Tata Technologies. I head the talent management and diversity team for Tata Technologies. It includes leadership, development, learning, all OD interventions, as well as diversity. And when I talk about diversity, empowering through access to technology. I think that is the key. And as Manasa and all of my other co-panelists have spoken, the more you give access to every section of the society to the upcoming technology, the more you empower them, the more you free them. So this forum and such more forums to come would invite us to look at how we can make sure that this access is given to every section of the society. And we also need to look at what kind of care consideration policies need to be woven around to make sure that we leverage it in the right way. So all excited, and hopefully I go back with some learnings.
Thank you, Naaz. So, to set the agenda right of this conversation, every year we, kind of tend to focus onto women-centric elements when it comes to Women's Day celebration in corporate world, as well as, outside whatever discussions are going on. But this year, I think what I thought was to bring in the element which is for all. So now there are people out there who tend to put us up saying that, all these conversations are too feminist and, doesn't address to everybody. I don't think the problems exist only to one segment. Now that we have broken so many barriers when it comes to placing women in the right direction, giving them their own rights, it's time for us to equally approach and have a mindset that addresses everybody and not just one segment, that is, us women out there. Technology, for that matter, is something that actually belongs to everybody, and we are in that arena where we look for opportunities for everyone. So to start with, since we're talking about awareness of these transformations and technology out there, why do you think we need more awareness for this, inclusivity and transformative technology, and how exactly are we doing it? So I would like to start with Naaz. Naaz, how do you think this whole, arena is being taken care of?
So Sukriti, to achieve the goal of a sustainable future, inclusive and transformational technologies, as well as digital education, are very critical. And I was just reading up, UN Women's Gender Snapshot of 2022 report shows that nearly 37% of women, and I'll talk about women here because that's one of the focus areas that we have as an organization, they're not online. Exclusion of women from digital spaces has resulted in them having very less access to knowledge and use of technologies. And this might come from the economic situation, the place of residence, or even the abilities, the physical abilities they have, the upbringing, overload of household chores, social cultural barriers, or the lack of pure digital skills might be the key factors causing these limitations of having access to such platforms. This further limits people from access to job opportunities, healthcare, education, equal decision-making power. And that is where a section of the society starts becoming marginalized. And to bridge this gap, I feel a couple of things, if put together. For example, access to healthcare. You have things like telemedicine, wearable, portable health devices, which kind of make sure that the healthcare reaches to every section. E-commerce platforms, online markets, etc. These ensure that a lot of sections that where otherwise job opportunities don't reach, get access to job and employment. Let's take women's safety, for example. As we are going to talk about this, I'm sure, in various other forums also. But women's safety and technology today, if you look at GPS tracking, emergency response systems, I think the potential is immense. And we need to work further, but whatever is existing also needs to be known to a larger section of the society. And social networking platforms. I feel those are absolutely wonderful and strong methods through which communities can build support and share knowledge together. So and a lot of sections of the geography that we stay in, some of the women have mobility issues because of socio-cultural barriers, etc. So online educations, e-books, virtual classrooms, even for differently able people. So these things actually make them more empowered. So I feel, hence the innovation and technology access to every section of the society would definitely bring transformational change across.
Thanks, Naaz. Manasa, what are your views?
Yeah, like I mentioned in my opening statement, and to resonate what Naaz just mentioned, a lot of quality change, especially around inclusivity. And inclusivity, to your point, even Sukriti, is not about one sect of people. The moment you create opportunities for a sect of people, the whole world improves and betters, because a diverse point of view and equality in sharing of wealth and data can create a lot of impact, positive impact in how we are as a society, how we move ahead as a group of people. So whether it is to an environment and sustainability end, whether it's a more equitable sharing of wealth, whether it is equal opportunity, and whether it is just us improving as citizens of the world, having a better point of view, behaving in a better way, which is more inclusive and just and bias free, gets impacted. So any sort of positive societal change has a domino effect in different aspects of life. So in the last decade, all of the access to education, access to information, access to for businesses to communicate better and become more empowered. A small puja flower vendor is on WhatsApp, creating a large addressable market. And that is truly how inclusive nature of social media. Because it gives access to everybody across cities, across educational, qualifications and demographics and background. But I want to bring focus to the conversation about the creators, the creators of content, the creators, journalists like you, the piece of writing that you create. Today, the ownership to a creation is very limited because it's accessed by a centralized authority, like whether it's a social media platform or another agency. So the true value for the creator and the creator of IP is not valued. And then we have an additional AI tools which are using all of these IP-led creations and monetize that further, means that the two creator did not have power, control, or access to that data, which means that they are not being inclusive in their creation. And I think that's the next set of change that will truly create equity in the world. And Web3 can enable that. And there are lots of very meaningful projects that are being done. But there is a lot of potential to bringing equality for each person who has created something meaningful, whether it's an idea, whether it's a piece of music, whether it's a piece of art, whether it's a piece of high quality journalism, right? All of those creators need to be valued and they should have equal share. And I think that's the next level of change that is going to come in, which is going to be truly, create inclusivity in terms of sharing of wealth.
Thanks, Manasa. Komal, what are your views?
So like I said, in the introduction, I think, to have the inclusion, what we keep talking about, to really make it successful, digital literacy is the first step. And I really do feel, and I'll tell you again why I say so, because during, as COVID, came in and everyone was working remotely, there were lots of changes that were happening. We were doing a lot of use of technology, even in the legal space and everywhere else. And the main point, especially coming from the legal domain, was that how do you, we were all talking about access to justice and how do we work remotely and how, court hearings can go virtual and all of that. But then how do you, it is all possible in these big cities, but what about our rural, areas? How are they going to attend virtually? We were discussing all of that. And the biggest issue that came up was technology is fantastic. There are great creators of solutions as well through technology, but then to ensure that it is not just the privileged lot, or it is not just a few of the whole big population of the country living in big cities, it's the entire country that benefits out of it. We've got to have digital awareness. We've got to number one, reach the outreach has to increase, so everybody has access. There's no privilege. It is a given. It is a requirement, a basic requirement that everyone must have. And the other thing is that everyone must know how to use. They should know what are the benefits. They should know how to use the technology to their advantage. So I would say digital literacy, and then creating awareness is what will bring about inclusivity.
Thanks, Komal. Angela?
So, well, first of all, we all need to get away from the technology unconscious bias, right? And all of us have this very prevalent within. And I would use AI as a great example. We are moving towards artificial intelligence, all of us very excited. But it's a great example of existing bias being perpetuated. Why do I say this? Because it uses historical data. It uses, and the historical data would include issues that are plagued by women so many years ago, or it would show some minority groups in the past, be it pay rise, be it promotions, be it career opportunities. And language in policies and decisions made by somebody else on behalf of women, it needs to change. It cannot continue the same way as it continues, because somewhere that is going to come back and hit us. More so, how many times women now, preemptively, we should be a part of decisions. What happened 40 years ago may be very different. We see it coming, but it's not already there. And that's why we should relook at whether it's our company policies, our government policies or procedures. It is critical and very, very critical at this point that we ensure fairness and equity, which is actively included, right? Current new technologies, any current new technology should include past patterns of behavior should be avoided. We have to look forward to making it different. We can say, oh, technology is very great. Oh, it looks very good. We will get our rural people digitalized. But what do they see? They go back to see data which is like 10 years old, which you and I also may not agree on, but it's there. So if we want to avoid all these attitudes and decisions to be avoided and repeated in the future, I think the time is to change now. We have to start into an inclusive society by removing that unconscious bias in any form of technology.
I love what you just said, Dr. Angela. I think the idea of intent being a part of future adoption and change and every step that we take on, as women leaders, but also as individuals, as part of communities, needs to be the foremost kind of filter that we apply. Intent to change and intent to kind of remove the previous biases that exist.
Yeah, the intentions are great, but how much is it actually there? So I think we all have to keep that intent in mind to go forward.
That intent and the final execution, a lot of things happen in between this, right? And this is itself is a challenge, I think, which we're here, people like us are in discussion, and we try and make that work. And in continuation to what just spoke of with the intent, tell me, how can we develop a gender neutral approach when it comes to innovation technology and digital education? As Komal very well emphasized that we need to actually educate ourselves digitally, whatever innovation is going on, we need to have more awareness about it. So, of course, not considering it as women's awareness, but a gender neutral approach to all these three factors when it comes to being aware of. Angela, can you hear me?
Yes. So I think what is most important, Srikti, is that we first of all need to foster representation. When I say foster representation, it has to be across all genders in the process of technology. Creation of this also applies to accessibility for those impacted by disability. Now, we as I still say, right, it is the intent is there, but do we really do it? We have to ask ourselves that, right? It is important that the people developing technology are as diverse as the people who they are creating it for. And sometimes we forget that. And these are small things, but we do miss it out very often. Without multiple viewpoints and perspectives, technology will only reflect the values, beliefs, and biases of those who create it. And this is something we all should remember. The question, how do we create more accessible pathways for people with varying needs to pursue careers in technology when they may discount themselves from choosing IT as a STEM career or a path? It is not just about education. It is about making technology less confronting for people who don't study them as a subject and helping them realize that they can participate and contribute to widen the community of creators. And I would pick on in the previous reference where they talked about farmers, where they talked about the rural area. My co-panelists, they were very clear that we have to extend it. Living in our small worlds of, IT specialists or lawyers or, we have to get out of that. One thing very important is practice what we preach. And why do I say that? So when we lead companies, and no reference to any company, but when we lead companies, we have our leadership team. How many of us take that conscious effort to ensure that it's an inclusive, well-balanced leadership team? In some organizations, it's male-dominated. Some organizations, it's female-dominated, and things like that. But it has to be a well-inclusive leadership team. Very, very important. The second thing is, while establishing thought leadership group and communities, we have to reflect on the fact that we have an established diversified group to establish a thought leadership for any organization, be it an entrepreneur's new setup or a well-established IT organization. When I say practice what you preach, if we do this, you are going to lead that down to the next level of leaders or the next level of team. If we do not do this very consciously, you cannot ask somebody, oh, can we have a better diversity ratio in your team? Think back, have you also done it? No, you cannot. You cannot force it down somebody's throat. It has to come from within. And lastly, I would make a very important thing, right? We have to familiarize the workforce with common gender unconsciousness. We hear it far too often. And I think for the last couple of years, oh, women are not paid as much as men. Women are not given the opportunity. I would flip the whole thing around. Do we not, or can we not put up our hand, even if we are not well qualified? I heard somebody tell me that, oh, I cannot take this position because I don't have 40% of the skill. But you still have a man who is your co-colleague going and taking the position, even though he may not have 50% of the skills. So what are we afraid of? And this goes across societies, across norms, across everywhere. So I leave it that, as leaders and in this panel, that inclusivity is the way forward. I think we have to just consciously ensure that whatever we create it for the bigger society and not for the group that creates it. And that
I think
only happen
taking the charge.
Sorry.
Exactly. And, Angela, I think taking the charge, no matter who you are, taking the charge for yourself and how much you know and you're capable of is something that one should always do. And I think that is the mindset change that we are looking at. If you know you can do a certain thing, you don't have to prove, you will be able to do it, right? And stand for yourself. Don't wait other people to stand for you, right? That's an important thing that we need to look at.
Sukriti, just want to add one more thing to what Angela said. I think she talked about programmed bias. So it is a programmed bias. So I think organizations, societies have to start working towards programmed unbiasing this entire, whatever they do. So if I'm starting a new product, I'm starting a new service, it has to be in the structure of this inclusivity. And once you start that, then today we have things like GDPR, etc., right? So those on data privacy and all of that, right? So in the same way, the inclusivity should be like a certified process for whatever you start as an offering.
I think is like, for women, the glass ceiling has already been broken, the opportunities have already been given. What we've not able to break is the stereotype. I mean, that conventional approach of certain things, that, if you're a woman, you will be able to do this. If you're a man, you'll be able to do this. So that mindset is very generic, and it's a very conventional, strong conventional thing that exists actually, and that actually restricts the change that we're trying to look at. And no matter who you are, if you have a conventional approach that this can happen only this way, then there's no change that we can look at, right? Moving on to the next one, Manasa. Yes, Komal, you have something to add. Please go ahead.
Yeah, over here, I think the change is happening. See, look, we are all sitting here because of that change,
Yes.
and so I think it's just a slow, gradual process, and the efforts just need to continue the way it is. Maybe speed up as we, there is more workforce, I think, to this mission. There will be a faster increase, but it's happening. It's just that, our country is so large and we have so many other issues as well, that obviously it's going to be a gradual process. The other point that I did want to make to Angela's point, Angela said it all, but I also want to just add one more thing. The reason, one of the, attributes I think I would give to ourselves also, often we find women complaining about being a woman. And I feel that we need to just stop doing. We need to stop doing. One, we maybe genuinely just feeling the bias or whatever, and therefore saying, oh, I suffered because I was a woman. The other also is that maybe somewhere we are trying to, have best of both sides. So I think we as women need to take control of ourselves, and we need to also stop complaining about being a woman.
So that was another conventional approach that Komal brought up, that we tend to victimize ourselves that we are women and this is all going to happen. So of course, that very, very, very valid point made, Komal. I will move to Manasa now. So Manasa, we've spoken about so many factors here. Now from you, I would want to know that with this, of course, the entire importance of digital identity and its protection gaining a lot of significance in today's world, because we know that a digital presence is like a mandatory one for all of us. How do you think that, how does exactly the new tech products or innovation that's happening around the corner is actually helping address the gap that we have?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Digital identity offers an effective instrument for authenticating access to digital services and products, right? But there are some prominent issues in the existing system that we've all heard about, spoken about, experienced in a lot of scenarios. Users need to manage different login credentials for websites, applications. There's centralized storage of all of our user data, right? Somebody is creating centralized and one point of holding this data, which also creates a single point of attack for hackers, thereby leading to data breaches and many examples of data breaches in the recent past. And the people impacted are users, because our personal data is breached. There's also lack of privacy. If I'm handing over all of my personal activity and to this system, that means that there is a lot of privilege that the centralized system has access to track my online activities, which is a complete breach of privacy. And then to add insult to injury, there is selling and sharing of user information. Companies make billions of dollars each year selling our data to third party for different use cases, but it also breaches privacy and safety for us. So emerging tech, especially digital identity systems on Web3, really address all of the issues of the existing system. Users can control their own data and information without relying on a centralized agency, such as a corporate institute or governments even. So users could create digital identities that are associated with their real world identities, but the key is anonymity. They can ensure anonymity when they choose to. The power and control lies with the user. And the most significant highlight of a digital identity on Web3 is that it allows us to have security, freedom, and privacy, which is really key. I'll give you an example. In the last few years in my previous stint, I built a largish following on Instagram. I created a lot of unique content on Instagram. Now I choose to move out of Instagram and lose my brand and goodwill that I've created on the platform because I've chosen to move to a Twitter or a LinkedIn. I can't bring in all of the original content that I created as a user. I lose everything. In a Web3 scenario, the content and creation and my identity and anything that I create is linked to me, not a platform. Which means if I sign up for another platform, that identity and brand worth that I've created goes with me. And that's a key thing as a creator. Let's talk about e-commerce or shopping online. You discover, and it would happen to all of us, we discover a cute little t-shirt on a new platform. But I'm mindful of getting onto a new platform to buy that cute t-shirt simply because I know I will have a series of emails marketing push for at least a year. So I choose not to do that. In a Web3 scenario, that store will have permission, that will have a permission checklist, right? And you can decide which of your personal details to share with that store. So I can go and access different things and yet retain control of my data and my identity. Think about the healthcare system. 60% of misdiagnosis is because there is lack of access to all of the previous medical history or data because of change in the healthcare provider, change in the facility that you went to or the doctor that you approached. So within Web3, the control of your own medical history data will be with you, which reduces, kind of dependence on somebody else's error and handling and, miscommunication because you've moved from one facility to the other. So the ability or the reason to have control over your own data, your own financial data, personal, private data is really, really strong. And I think that's a injustice of the previous system, although we saw a lot of other things really flourish. I think that's a key shift that needs to happen for each of us. Even when we talk about, somebody mentioned content being pushed to us, which is inherent to certain biases and certain rules that were set in an AI tool, which means where does free will come in? Because I've pushed a certain series of information and content. Ideally, I should be deciding what I have access to and what I want to see on my feed. And these are complicated problems of today's world, but very important on how we move forward into the next decade.
I think I completely agree with Manasa, what you said. And slowly, I think we need to, though we have, hundreds of pages of declarations signed before we get onto any service or any portal, but I think it should be flipped the other way, where the individual is able to tell exactly what data or information can be shared further. And that is the shift that we need to make, where it is more of individual-centric approach rather than the organization telling us that out of these 100 things, this is what we would do. And somewhere the details would get lost in those tons of pages that we signed off. Absolutely.
What I observed, yeah, Manasa, please go ahead.
I was just agreeing with Naaz and said that's why the need for the decentralized ecosystem, because for too long somebody's controlling all of these things to our disadvantage.
What I observed is probably out of those 100 things that we kind of agree easily, maybe there are 50 or 40 things that we would not want to agree. But since we don't have a choice, there's a comprehensive list that appears. And even if you have a problem with it, you have no choice rather than to agree to all those things because you want those 40, 50 things, right?
There's no choice.
So that is my personal experience. That is coming out of my sole personal experience, wherein I thought that no, yeah, these things are something that I would not want. But since I want these things, I have to agree, right? So I think that customization point that you brought in is very valid. Naaz, of course, moving forward with this, as we are discussing, the cyber crime or the online violence that we are seeing today is, of course, not gender biased. We see a lot of people suffering through it. Tell us that how is this actually problem of online violence being tackled through different policies, or how do you think the world actually resolving such problems?
Right. So first of all, let us start defining what is online violence. So, online bullying, trolling, stalking, virism, blackmailing, even the frauds, the data breaches that we talked about, breach of privacy, all of that would be constituted as online violence. And studies have found that law enforcement agencies and the courts are failing to take appropriate actions for these kind of violences. Talking about females, 1 in every 5 female users in countries where harassments and abuse of women online is extremely unlikely. Is extremely unlikely to be punished. A report from India I was looking up, and that suggests that only 35% of people in the country have reported their victimization. So it starts from there. Women often prefer not to report these kind of cyber violences for fear of social repercussions. And the rapid spread of the internet means that at a national level, we need to have effective and legal social controls of online antisocial and criminal behavior and they continue to be an immense challenge as of now. I'll come to the laws and the policies that are coming in, but a rigorous oversight and enforcement definitely has to be there. Banning such kind of violence and empowering space for women or any other be it differently abled or even a man for that extent should be able to use it in a safe way. Now, governments, regulators, businesses, and everyday netizens, etc., they alike need to recognize and act on the basis of principle that an unsafe, internet or technology usage will mean that people will frequent this less freely, and with costly, I would say, economic implications. So I feel industry should have some safeguard protocols. Industry players are important digital, I feel, kind of gatekeepers. They include ISPs, mobile phone companies, social networking sites, or even online dating and gaming sites, website operators, and even software developers. So tech companies need to explicitly recognize that such online violences are unlawful behavior, and they should demonstrate increased and expedited cooperation in providing relief to the victims, survivors, within the capacities that companies have. In particular, better systems for cooperating with the law enforcement. So many times I have known people who register the complaints, but somehow the industry gatekeepers, as I call them, their response time is very slow, to the extent of it being mistaken as being uncooperative. So in terms of the law, well, I can, and I'm sure the other panelists who are from the legal field would be able to give more details, but provisions in the IPC 1860, Information Technology Act 2000, they do provide safeguards, especially to women, against online harassment and ICT facilitated violence. The Women and Child Ministry in India has also opened channels to report this kind of act. But again, the reporting is too far and few in between. And somewhere I feel it kind of also, in a way, contradicts with freedom of expression, which kind of makes it a tough balancing act for governments and regulatory authorities. So there has to be more discussions, and there has to be, as I said, the industry which is providing a particular service, etc., they have to be more responsible, and there has to be a framework of such cooperation between law enforcements. And as one of the panelists said, when we say education and access, that education definitely needs to have a part about what is okay and what is not okay in terms of, accessing such, be it technology, information, etc. And I think when we start there, a lot of the problems are kind of taken care of at the root level.
Thanks, Naaz. I've been this question has been onto my mind for a very, very long time. we call ourselves netizens. Our identity, which has become very critical, in terms of proving ourselves that we have the available resources. We are through all the social media platforms. We have an access to all the resources that's available on the internet. I think the word netizens has given us a lot of power, but this power has been misused a lot. And we need to really have the whole idea of having such a power that can actually contribute to a lot of changes. Now, when you say the intent that Angela, you spoke about here, the intent to create good things is I think lesser than people, of course, Naz mentioned trolling and just bullying somebody. All those things are, because you are digitally present and you have an access to somebody's information. But that doesn't give you a right to have an opinion of the negative or the positive that's coming out. So we really need to, set that bar for ourselves as an individual and have that respect, because everybody is there on the digital forum. And you're not supposed to have that intent and opinion about somebody's life, which can be personal, which can be professional. You do not know, and normally what social media shows us is not what the originality of the individual is. We try and put up things very happy and everything is so nice and goofy and hunky dory, but I think the story behind that is very different. Just because it's a norm to be lively present here on the internet, that gives us that surrounding of sharing our things with our loved ones. But that being said, I think that the power of being that netizen and having access to the internet is something that we have to be very, very cautious of. Komal, I'll move to you with this. I think Naaz has brought in some very valid and important points. Is here when it comes to the online violence that we're talking about. I would want you to actually jot. Yeah, Naaz, Manasa, please go ahead. You have something to add.
Yeah, you made an interesting point. I just want to add my 2 cents on that. Human beings behave a certain way because we are predestined from an evolutionary standpoint, and we continue to change with the evolving world. When we create a technology product, you reference certain social media platforms. They are not a static product. The rules of functioning define our behavior. So if a platform allows you to put out good stuff, it's because it is it's designed for that action. It's a systemic decision to and each social media platform is so different. Why is it so different? Human beings are not so different, because they continue to be the same, but the behavior on that platform is defined by the set of rules. And that is why safety can be created if we so choose, and monitoring what we say and what we can say, what is allowed, can also be monitored with the same rules. So the power exists. And back to the point of intent, why was it created and what is the larger intent? It's very hard to monitor intent, but there is power in all of these tools. So it's not that human beings are responding, it is because the platform allows and encourages certain behavior and restricts certain behavior. So
absolutely,
it's very nuanced, I think, and it's not without design.
So yeah, this is a very long conversation. Right?
Yes, I would like to add to answer, right? So it's just a statement, right? It's about the creation, but if the creation is inclusive, I think the results will be better. Because remember, they create it for the world, right? You're creating it for a group of people. But if you have an inclusive creation and you make sure that, we take that step forward to ensure that inclusiveness is brought in, I think the benefits will outplay the negative then. And it's possible, right? I mean, all of us know what is right and wrong, but it's about what is being done about it.
Absolutely. And this actually brings down to a lot of mental health issues. I mean, this is a very long and, open conversation that we are actually into right now. And I think everything that we do, every action, every word that we speak on an online forum, I think is actually a reciprocation and somebody's reaction to what we are giving out. And that can actually affect our mental health, affect us in possible manner that one cannot even imagine. That a word from somebody's end, a comment from somebody's end can actually ruin somebody's life, right? So we have to be very thoughtful while we try and write and put our opinion out there in the public, right? So, for example, people like us, especially the women, I should quote here, because I've seen it. We cannot have a public profile here. The moment you have a public profile, you see your DMs full of shit, and you cannot actually, process that. How many times? So you're strong enough to look at 10, 15 messages, but what would you do if 50 people write the same thing to you, right? It's just gonna actually affect your psyche. Komal, with this, I would come to you, and this is more about awareness of the laws that we are just talking about the issues here. So you just help us, create that awareness that what are the laws that one can abide by to avoid cyber crimes, and what are cautions that we can actually be more digitally aware about things.
So I actually have a list of the laws because there are so many. So I actually went and researched and said that okay, let me list out the laws that govern or that can be taken assistance of. So we have the Information Technology Act 2000. We have the Information Technology Rules. Now in that we've got the rules 2011, which according to these rules, entities holding individual sensitive personal information must maintain certain security standards that are specified per the rules. Then there are information technology guidelines for intermediaries and digital media ethics code, pretty much what we've discussed. And this is rules 2021. This is to maintain the safety online of users' data, the online safety of users' data. These rules govern the role of intermediaries, including social media intermediaries, to prevent the transmission of harmful content on the internet. Then there is the Information Technology Guidelines for Cyber Cafe Rules 2011. According to these guidelines, cyber cafes must register with an appropriate agency and maintain a record of users' identities and their internet usage. Then there is Information Technology Electronic Service Delivery Rules 2011. And basically these regulations, they give the government the authority to specify the delivery of certain services such as applications, certificates, and licenses by electronic means. And then there is Information Technology, the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team, and manner of performing functions and duties, rules 2013. These are all rules. And then there is the Indian Penal Code 1860, where specifically section 292, 354C, 354D, and section 420 and 463 deal with cyber crimes. Now I've read all of this, might have gone above the head because you've got to read the laws to understand them, what they say, what they prevent people from doing. So having said all of that, I think it is impossible. It is going to be a very unrealistic expectation of people, of every citizen. By the way, law says ignorance of law is no excuse. As a citizen of the country, I should be knowing each and every law of the country, whether I'm a lawyer or not. But it is practically not possible for everyone to know what these laws are. So my take will be that while we should be aware of the laws, I think while you may not know the rules, you should definitely know that there is an Information Technology Act, that there is a Data Protection Act coming into being. So all of those things are important to know, but I think awareness is very important. The more we create awareness through examples, whether it is through some visuals, whether it is through messaging, whether it is through slogans, there are just, I'm sure there's so many creative minds who can think about how do we spread awareness in every corner of the country, so that before you do something, you ask yourself, is this right, is this wrong? There might be some things that you may not know is wrong. And I'll give you one example that I think people can relate to, not related to IT, but behavior. We all know about POSH again. I'm assuming the audience, at least over here in this forum, knows about POSH. And one example that I'll give you is that, say, for example, you see your female colleague, she's just come into office with a lot of shopping bags. And you are a very great friend of this colleague of yours. And, you just quickly jump with no ill intention whatsoever. But you say, "Dikhao zara kya leke aayo?" And, you grab one of the bags and you open it. The girl might just not like it. Now, even though she was your best friend, and you'd never thought that you can't go open the bag. You just thought, okay, she's come done shopping, we're great friends, and you are so excited and says, show me what you've got. But you go ahead and you want to open the bag, and she didn't like the fact that you opened her bag because you don't know what's in it, and she might not want you to see what's in it. And then there was this complaint against you, and then you don't know how to deal with it because you do not know that you've made any wrong gesture, that there was anything wrong that you did. Normally it was an acceptable behavior. Now, how do you come to know that certain things that may work with your friends will not work with other people? How do you give those examples so that people know what their boundaries are, and they know how not to cross those boundaries? So I'd rather say, that to create awareness, it's not the names of the acts that are going to help. It's not the section names that will help. It is the awareness that will help. And awareness, we have to choose mediums very carefully according to the recipients. So my approach for corporate employees will be different to what I will approach maybe government organizations, maybe when I go to rural areas, how I will try to preach my message there is going to be different. So again, like I said, lots of creative minds have to work towards creating awareness, so people they don't need to remember the law, they just need to remember ye sahi hai, ye galat hai. As much as you can differentiate between right and wrong, and you ask yourself, if I do this, will I end up in trouble? The answer is yes, better stop. I should be that aware. I should be able to distinguish between right and wrong. And if that awareness we've been able to create, then we've been successful. So I would rather say that very good if you know the laws, you must know the laws as a citizen of the country, but also you should know what is right and wrong. If you know what is right and wrong, we will never land up in trouble. And we as educated people need to do a great deed here. We need to really do a lot. It's quite a big task for us to not just remain educated ourselves, and also educate people around us. People know how we educate our children, with all of the cyberbullying and whatnot, and children today are so much into use of social media. How the school tells us, right? Please, there was such and such incidents in one of the schools, please educate your children. And then how we sit with them and we just want to teach them everything right and wrong in that very one evening. That is the approach that we really need to take, and make sure that our country is educated and aware.
In fact, schools should have one subject totally dedicated to this, so that when they pass out and go to colleges, etc., there is some basic input. And of course, organizations, as you said, corporate, government, each one should have, the way we have POSH modules, which are absolutely mandated. The same way we should have this kind of education, and slowly it would, the more awareness would increase.
Exactly.
So, all this mobile access was given to these kids when we were in the pandemic. Now, the whole exposure that has actually brought in is sort of a misuse as well. Apart from their classes and projects and everything, they've been exposed to a certain, digital platforms wherein, of course, we need to actually tell them. If we are giving them a gadget, we need to tell them how to use it. What are the ways of cautions that they have to keep in mind while handling a certain gadget? So I think that's something that schools really need to take care of. And in our school days back, I don't think we hadn't even access to a mobile phone. We just had landlines at home, and we had to seek permission from our parents even to call our friends. So I think that limitation was somewhere very useful, because when the right time sort of came in, we knew how to handle gadgets. But still, I think that education and that awareness from the very basics is very important. And it will come down from schools, it will come down from parents, it will come down from the families that we sort of live in. So I think I had a wonderful time with this discussion with all four of you, I must say. But before I kind of conclude the conversation, I would like to know what you felt and how was it for each one of you. So Angela, let's begin with you. How was the conversation for you? Please give me the closing remark for the session.
I think I love the conversation, and I think there's great learning in it. There's absolutely no end to learning, and a lot of revelations as well, right? I'm sure listening to Komal about all of the laws which are there, I do not know even half the laws, right? We know that it's there. Mansa talked about a lot of things, right? Consciously or unconsciously, we have the control of not giving data to the communities. But you know what? If we want to do something, our shortcut is go apply it, accept all, and we go do whatever we need to do. We forget about that. Okay, after you're done, go and uncheck that. We don't do it. So the point is, I think that the message at the end is right. We will have to consciously, all of us, if we need India to progress. We have, the Prime Minister there with all of the all of the women programs running around. We will have to, in our parts, be conscious enough to take that step forward. And it starts with me, I would say. It's about me taking that practice. I cannot do everything, but those baby steps are going to get us there. We are far behind than what we are expected to be, but it is still never late. Though we have to stop fighting about women need this, women need that. We have to talk about equality and absolutely unconscious bias. I think that will get us to the next level quicker, rather than talking about what women should do and what women should not do, what men should do, what men should not do. So I would leave it with that.
I completely second you, Angela, onto that. Thank you so much for saying out loud. Naaz, what are your thoughts?
I think today's session has really brought up a couple of key things that even as organizations, one needs to take up, right from the time that they are building products, services, there is a social responsibility also attached to that. And I think as some of us are from that background, going and taking that message back and making sure that that consciousness is there. Secondly, also at an individual level, as Angela said, it starts with us. It starts with us being more conscious, us taking the option of going through all the details and then making the right choices, rather than saying, oh, it was too comprehensive or too exhaustive for me to go through. So I think using the enabling factors that we have as of today, and also being more conscious of, I would say, the things that can go wrong. And believe me, by virtue of my profession, by virtue of the network that I have, a lot of these incidences of misuse also has come to light. However, it doesn't get reported. So actually speaking up about any kind of such misuse, information, transformation, innovation, evolving technology, all of that is good, and we look forward to an invite. But there is always the other extreme. So being conscious of that, making sure your surrounding ecosystem is conscious of that. I think those are some of the key takeaways. And thanks, I think all of you have been really enlightening my perspective through this discussion and taking a lot back home.
Thank you, Naaz. Manasa?
I'll share a slightly different point of view. My entire career has been about creating social change. It was creating impact and awareness around health. And now it's creating impact, change, and awareness around what Web3 can offer in terms of, changing the world as we see it. So today has been truly motivating because I see powerful women with a strong point of view and an ability to change, as well as an intent to change things at the helm of very large organizations, where that's what is going to make the next step happen. And each individual has so much power. Sometimes when you're in your bubble, you fail to see all of the great work that is happening around you. And today has been truly motivating for me to hear each of you and also take away that sense of sisterhood in some ways, that we're all working towards a just world. And it's been really wonderful. My heart is full. It was great hearing and listening to and speaking with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Manasa. Komal?
My conclusion is that, of course, it's been fun. It's always fun, to be meeting different people, learning from them. I think this has been, while, we kind of are in the same, somewhere there is similarity in the work that we're doing, but yet there's so much to learn from each other. I hope the audience has benefited out of our experience and our, conversation. That is what I would hope for. And like everyone said, we need to, I think we are very lucky that we are here. We've been having, we've had all supporting men and women around us that we are here today, and we are able to speak our minds so confidently. But I also think that one point that I'd like to raise is that all the change has to begin from home. If my parents hadn't treated me equally as my brother, I don't think I would have been here. If my parents wouldn't have supported me in my education, I wouldn't have been here. So I have seen that change happen from home, and I do the same now in my life. So I think that's the message that I would want to give everyone, that change has to begin from home. I really don't believe in fighting the fight of man and women being equal. I really believe that both complement each other, both are necessary, and both complement each other. So I have a very different view. I really do not fight this fight, I really believe that both are complementing each other and both have their own strengths. And we should focus on strengths, and we should respect each other for being necessary, for this world to run. And if we respect each other, if we support each other, we'll make a great world. So let's begin that change. Let's support that change.
Thanks, Komal.
So,
just to add on to what, yes, Manasa.
Before you end, this topic that you chose, I think I just want to highlight, how beautiful it was, because each of us is working on systemic change. But in this conversation, while we focused on that, it also brought out this fact of individual change and the power in individual change. So I just wanted to kind of give kudos to you. It was a great topic and a great conversation.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Manasa. What Komal just added, that we are built differently. Nature is built out differently for a reason, right? And complementing each other is what the nature wants, and not fight with each other. So when we try and put ourselves out loud, and if I had to put our intention of this conversation today as a conclusion, I think being more responsible towards the available resources is something that we have to look at. And being more responsible and cautious, of course, is something that we should be. When you're aware, you should know the proper utilization, and you have to be more responsible while using those resources. So I had a great time and learning from all four of you. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. I don't think I could have actually asked for more different opinions and insights from what you women do out there in the different industries that you're working for. So thank you once again, and I hope this conversation is something that our audience can actually use, and not just women, but everybody out there who's listening to us today will be able to use in a proper manner. And I had a wonderful time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.